Yo, what's going on, everybody? Now, this season, the Helltooth set is the set that you get from Haedrig's Gift. Now, if you're not familiar with how Haedrig's Gift works, I'll go ahead and put a link to a video about the Haedrig's Gift in the info section of this video. So if you're not sure how it works, go watch that. It's about a 3-minute or so video. Get yourself familiarized with it, and then come back and watch this. Now, as always with these starter videos, I'm only wearing 6-piece Helltooth. The rest of my gear is level 70 crafted rares. I'm using 0 Paragon points, 0 legendary gems, nothing in the Kanai's Cube, and just standard low-level marquee gems in my gear. And even with all that, this build absolutely crushes Torment 6. Helltooth is just so strong, man. It's crazy. You could probably even bump it up to like Torment 8, maybe even 9 if you could stay alive. Now, I wouldn't recommend that because it's going to be much slower than Torment 6 farming, but yeah, this build absolutely destroys. So first up, let's go over what the Helltooth set does for some of you guys that may be unfamiliar with it or maybe newer to the game. So the 2 set, enemies hit by your primary skills, and then a long list of various things. In this build, what we're really focused on are Acid Cloud, Zombie Dogs, Gargantuan, and Piranhas, and Wall of Death. Are then affected by Necrosis, becoming slow to taking 1500% weapon damage every second, and taking 20% increased damage from your attacks for 10 seconds. The 4 set, after applying Necrosis to an enemy, you take 60% reduced damage for 10 seconds. And then the big deal is, after casting Wall of Death, so that's why you always have to have some sort of Wall of Death in a Helltooth build, you gain 1400% increased damage for 15 seconds to your primary skills, and then again in this build we're really focused on Acid Cloud, Wall of Death, Piranhas, Zombie Dogs, and your Gargantuan. Next, the abilities. First up, Acid Cloud, Acid Rain. This is going to be buffed by the 6-piece Helltooth multiplier. Has a very large radius at 24 yards, and just one cast of this, along with the damage over time effect it leaves on the ground, should kill the majority of trash. And with things like Grave Injustice and Gruesome Feast as passives, you should have no issue with mana. Every now and again, if you really spam this hard along with Piranhas, you could potentially run out of mana, but there's going to be so many health globes dropping from enemies dying so quickly that you get tons of mana back from Gruesome Feast. We got Wall of Death, Communing with Spirits. This is mostly there because you need it to proc your 6-piece Helltooth. And it also reduces incoming damage from enemies. Now, you could honestly probably go with the Firewall version of Wall of Death for more damage if you wanted to. I like having a little bit more toughness, especially right at the beginning of the season with this build. And especially run this if you're running hardcore. We got Piranha's Paranado. Enemies will take increased damage that are affected by this, but the biggest reason for this is to get the enemies all grouped up close together as possible to take advantage of the fire aura from the dogs, the cleave from the Gargantuan, and then your area of effect from Acid Cloud. Spirit Walk Severance. This is going to be your main movement ability. You're going to get 100% extra movement speed with the Severance rune. And basically, every time you kill a group of mobs, you're going to get the cooldowns of your abilities reduced by Grave Injustice to then jet off to the next pack, rinse and repeat. Summon Zombie Dogs, Burning Dogs. These get buffed by the 6-piece Helltooth multiplier as well, and they do pretty decent single target damage along with the Burning Aura that deals 80% of your weapon damage as fire every second to enemies around it. Gargantuan Humongoid. This is the best rune for the Gargs. Gives you a nice cleave, and even without the Short Man's Finger, on Torment 6 to 10, this thing still just hits like an absolute truck. And it's amazing single target damage as well. Next up we have the passives. I think Grave Injustice is the most important one early on for this build because this is really what gives you your movement speed with the Spirit Walk Severance. You go kill a pack of mobs, bam, your Spirit Walk's back off a cooldown and you can just jet off to the next pack, rinse and repeat. You also get life back and mana back to fuel your Acid Cloud, Acid Rain. All around just an amazing passive. Confidence Ritual for 25% additional damage to enemies within 20 yards. So just a straight up damage increase as long as you're within 20 yards of the enemies, which is very easy to do, especially with how tanky this build is. Early on, you should have no issues staying within range of just about everything on Torment 6. Midnight Feast. This is going to give you 50% increased damage to your zombie dogs and gargantuan, as well as get an additional zombie dog for even more damage. And then we got Gruesome Feast. When you're healed by a health globe, gain 10% of your max mana and 10% int for 15 seconds, stacking up to 5 times. The majority of the time, you're going to have anywhere from 2 to 5 stacks of Gruesome Feast, and typically you're going to be close to 5, if not at 5 most of the time, with how quickly you can kill things with this build. Especially if you're just elite and champion hunting, they tend to drop a lot of health globes, but this is just one of the best all-around passives for torment farming in general. Getting mana back to fuel, again, your Acid Cloud, Acid Rain, and your Piranhas, and then to also get a huge damage increase by increasing your intelligence. Now let's just very quickly discuss a few items to look out for early on in the season. Now these are just a few. Keep in mind there are tons of great items for this build, and a lot of legendaries that really benefit this setup. But first up, let's talk about the short man's finger and the tall man's finger. Now the short man's finger is one of the highest priorities for this build. As soon as you put that on, you're going to jump up 2 or 3 torment levels and be rocking some really high G riffs right off the rip as soon as you get that thing. That's how powerful it is and how crazy strong the 3 smaller gargantuans are from the short man's finger. The tall man's finger is also very, very good early on. You get the big giant zombie dog. Does a ton of damage. It's not quite as good as the short man's finger, but it'll definitely amp your damage up considerably. Then we have the 2 kind of main pet items for the Witch Doctor, the Mask of Jerem and Tasker and Theos. The Mask of Jerem will increase your pet's damage, while the Tasker and Theos will make your pets attack that much faster. And then we have kind of the 2 items that were designed for Helltooth a few patches ago. We've got the Scrimshaw and the Suwong Diviner. So if you get the Suwong Diviner, you can just pop that right into this exact ability setup, and you'll be good to go. If you get the Scrimshaw, I would probably just swap out the Acid Cloud for Zombie Bears, and you'd be good to go. So that'll about wrap it up, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys for the next video.